I'll begin by giving you an example on TikTok of something that's absolutely superficial, and it's also promoting propaganda. You're going to hear unified field theory in here, which has gotta be, it should be laughable to wax poetic about such a thing, but pseudo-intellectuals repeat things, they don't think about them. This is the video. I don't want to play it again. It's only 2 minutes and 15 seconds.
This was found left behind in a jail cell. The inmate was said to be schizophrenic. Superliminal frequencies are those above the threshold of human perception. This suggests that the pattern deals with the subtle or advanced forms of energy that influence reality beyond the ordinary senses. The square root of 2, pi, and the golden ratio. These are fundamental constants in mathematics and nature. They often appear in geometric constructions and natural patterns, suggesting the diagram's connection to universal principles. The angel measured the wall using human measurement, and it was 144 cubits thick. Induction of telekinetic levitation and unified fields. These phrases suggest advanced theories of physics or metaphysics. Telekinetic levitation refers to the ability to move objects with the mind, while unified field theories aim to combine all fundamental forces of physics into a single framework.
Have yourself a laugh. Ooh. You gotta love the sensational music. Did you notice the social...
This seems to be a synthesis of esoteric, scientific, and philosophical concepts, blending advanced geometry, theoretical physics, and spiritual references. The author appears to be communicating a grand, possibly apocalyptic vision involving cosmic principles, advanced energy forms, and significant time periods. The document challenges the reader to understand the complex interconnections between these elements, suggesting a profound underlying order to reality. I'm dying to know what you think. Let me know your thoughts on this paper in the comments.
We'll begin with this here. The word of the day is... Let's see. This. That's the word of the day. Things like this. Here, let's get you some visuals to work with. Things like this are crapped out on the DARPA internet. And people are told a story. There's a little narrative with it. Is there any truth to this relating to a jail cell or anything else? None of these kids looked into it. I guarantee it. Here's somebody talking about Terrence Howard, who's a controlled opposition asset, currently lying to people and convincing them that 1 times 1 doesn't equal 1. And here's the big coincidence. The same narrative was spoon-fed to the kids in the alphabet community. It's an agenda to corrupt what reflects reality. If you understand how the numbers 1 through 9 work, you would never believe that, let alone repeat it. In other words, this kid does not know what he's talking about, which is also why he's using emojis that were written into the algorithm to dumb people down. If you listen to this video, the character was dressed up as schizophrenic. Whether this person exists or not, that's being normalized. And if you listen, okay, here another way to put it is, if you challenge people online, they will dismissively call you schizo or schizophrenic sometimes. Especially when I leave more than 2 paragraphs or a paragraph on Instagram, I get that every now and again. And then I challenge them, and they cry, or they bow out and block me, because I'm not. But it's a cute way to reaffirm your dogmatic belief systems. Now, you're going to get a bunch of pseudo-intellectuals in here waxing poetic about what they were spoon-fed. I'm talking about paradigms, which are rabbit holes that lead nowhere and mean nothing. They go nowhere. They're fuck all. That's why people are given these prepackaged cookie-cutter narratives. It's the official narratives to repeat. And that's what they think they know. They've never challenged them. Just like the Terrence Howard stuff. If you understood, and it's very simple, how the numbers 1 through 9 work. You would never buy into a narrative, again, for example, telling you that 1 times 1 doesn't equal 1. And I've explained this online numerous times over. For the most part, those videos, they're not circulated because I'm censored on the DARPA internet. And it makes sense, it stands to reason, and it reflects reality and everything else through and fucking through. If you listen to this video, you're going to also hear social engineering buzzwords like cosmic tossed around. And unified, unfortunately. The cosmic stuff in particular has to do with the one world religion. It has to do with the New Age movement, which is now dressed up as something I thought was a joke when I first heard it. People actually call it woo-woo. Here's somebody reaffirming multidimensional. This is an episode of Tangent Cam. The multiverse of adult fairy tales is in place to pave the way for a one world religion. The same applies to simulation theory. These things don't reflect reality, which is why people have been told, sold, and urged to repeat the propaganda, and they believe in it, and they do. Quantum physics is a theory, if you haven't figured that out. Gravitons, quarks, atomism, all of these things are theories. None of this exists. These are also examples of narratives that people have been spoon-fed, and they believe it. They repeat it, and they corrupt what does reflect reality. The very few of us out here that still appreciate things and or can call upon critical thinking skills, they're actively corrupting this crap by repeating such things as, quantum physics. Anything that's well-financed and well-circulated, you shouldn't trust, nor would you trust it. Why would you trust it? I mean, I could use the analogy about the sky is falling. And let's say the sky was actually falling, but if everybody believed that it wouldn't fall, they would reaffirm that it's not going to fall, and they're not going to try to take shelter or do anything about it. I mean, it's a shitty analogy, but it's also terribly true. And it's because you and I are surrounded by retards who are pseudo-intellectuals, at heart. We all fall under the umbrella of indoctrination, if you will. And that's why people are, dumber than a basket of yarn. Things are bad. Are they getting better? No, they're not. Because what I just said is absolutely true. Otherwise, things would track, in the opposite direction, so to speak. What else do we got in here? The Metatronic frequency and the false matrix Fibonacci code. Jargon. Just jargon. And you get emojis in there, of course. Liminal spaces is being tossed around quite a bit now. More jargon, but this up-and-coming generation, so jargon-laden. That might suit somebody or float some people's goats. It sounds like garbage. What most people wax poetic and repeat sounds like something straight out of the DSM 5 or 6 or whichever volume they're on in terms of bullshit psychology. It's terrifying, and it reaffirms the narratives promoting big pharma propaganda, if you haven't figured that out. That's why in the programming, everybody has to have a goddamn therapist, because their family and their friends are useless. We haven't focused on community and family, so you don't have anybody to turn to. You have to go to a stranger and pay them money so they can nod and pretend to write things down. And you have to rent your feelings, how you feel about these things, and, process your trauma and other garbage like that. That's how far gone things are. You see, in the old days, you would just buck up, you would learn from these things and roll with the punches. You would focus instead of folding. And this is how we, clean things up. Ironically, the pseudo-intellectuals out there will wax poetic about Darwin, the survival of the fittest. Don't forget, he wrote a really racist book and they altered the title. Most people don't know the full title about the favored races. He was a eugenicist, not a good guy. Time for another episode of Tangent Cam. Woo! How does the alphabet community factor into Darwin and these, favored races? How does it also factor into, that group of people I'm not allowed to talk about on TikTok because TikTok promotes fascism, who dislike something known as the Goy or the Goyim, you and I, respectively? How does this factor in to Darwin and eugenics? You see, there's a thing called the Tavistock Institute. Here, let's do this. Long episode of Tangent Cam. 2 books. Still got a glare on it, though. Tavistock Institute is intimately connected with eugenics, both of which have what? They're firmly rooted in fascist ideology. Fascism, not a good thing. Darwin was all about this. The only reason you know about the alphabet community is because it's all about this. It's about corrupting you and I and what reflects reality and all the other things that I keep complaining about. But people don't understand this. And this is just a example. One example. There are other things at work which do not come up. And Darwin stole his working concepts from a dying man in a tent. Evolution wasn't one of them. Evolution is now a social engineering buzzword, unfortunately, and I frown on it. But in terms of focusing or folding, if you do have checks and balances, things would get better. We don't. So I'm paralleling that with some pseudoscience, which also tells you survival of the fittest, but instead you have wet farts trucking around with facial diapers and a chemical cocktail in their bloodstream, typically speaking. And or they cut off their penises because the TV told them to, social media told them to, and they did. And that promotes big pharma slavery. Renting your DNA and or, corrupting your nature. The sacred feminine and sacred masculine are two governing forces of this reality, which is why yin and yang was echoed by the ancients. But heaven forbid we appreciate such things. Throw that in the bin too, because quantum physics and everything else. Oh, but it's a multiverse of bullshit. None of it matters. It's wild. It's wild what people are up to and what they will repeat. Look, genius. Nothing on here that I just showed you is anywhere close to genius levels, as some people might think of them. Look up top. The gates have opened. My time has come. Your cities will burn. That's what's the word that I'm looking for? Foreshadowing's not it. The portent. I can't think of what I'm driving at. In this video, it alluded to a prophecy. That's what it was. And this is what you get out of it. The United States government of justice, followed by the gates have opened, my time has come, your cities will burn. A moron knocked this out, and or somebody who's manipulating morons, and they dumbed it down to speak to morons, which is why a moron said, "This genius." 5 Zion, polyhedron. Okay. Interlocking dimensions and musical resonance. Okay. Sure. You could think of walking from one city block to another city block. You're passing through time, 4D, and you're moving through dimensions, space, respectively. How these things are dressed up otherwise is not at all anywhere close to what we celebrate, what we observe, what we interact with, and what reflects reality. What else do we got here? For your intellect, I've simplified this as far as possible, maybe is what it says. It requires some stupidity or, what does it say? Stupider? I don't know. That says, then I am to communicate to thee and through your own incredulent, I'm probably not saying that right, laughter, you are for the something moment powerless against me. And then we got Revelation 21:17. Pretty amazing, right? Pretty amazing. Telekinetic levitation, unified field of bullshit. I used to leave videos online explaining why that's bullshit. They might still be alive and well on YouTube. Not that anybody's going to scroll back and spend time and energy doing so. But if you did, I would spell it out for you and think for you. Usually I just get kids who will ask me on the spot, to tell them the answer. I won't. And they tune out and they just keep scrolling, digesting the entertainment, propaganda. Which is how things like this are circulated in the first place. It's a red flag, it's a problem, and it also tracks with what I said. Things aren't getting better, they're getting worse, because what I'm driving at, unfortunately, is true. I'm going to pipe down because there's some cool little kids nearby. If you hung out, thanks for hanging out. None of the superficial kids on TikTok bothered to go to YouTube. and watch the videos on there. Not one of them, as far as I'm aware. It speaks volumes. They're not looking to learn things and challenge themselves. They're looking for garbage to repost, which is why TikTok and all the other social media exists in the first place. But it's also why you and I were granted access to the DARPA internet, trained to carry cell phones, and convinced to profile ourselves on social engineering platforms that were devised not for our benefit but to our detriment. And people haven't considered this because they're all marching in lockstep by and large. That's why things are bad and why they're getting worse. But what do I know?